Hi and welcome yet again to the channel Newtown Naughty Boy, and in this particular video we will be looking at the Diana Mod 6 air pistol. Now I envisage, as I've done in previous videos, that I'll do a part 1 where we talk about this air pistol at length, and then I'll do a part 2 where I run the pistol through a chronograph and do some accuracy testing as well. So we'll see how the pistol performs. But in this particular part I'm going to discuss the pistol, its pros and cons, and a little bit about the history behind this relating to myself. So, as I've done with the last video when I looked at the Crosman Model 600, this pistol also has a little bit of history involved with myself. And so if I take you back to those days when I was just a youngster and just getting into air pistols and air rifles, and this was the 1960s at the time, and I was about 15 or 16 I guess at this particular point. But as I've mentioned in previous videos, there wasn't very much around as far as air pistols and even air rifles to a certain extent. There weren't very many different makes available, but one of the makes that was available to us all was the Diana air rifles and air pistols. Now, it wasn't until I actually investigated what air rifles and air pistols were around through a book that I mentioned in the last video that I'd actually bought, which described different air pistols, that it started me to actually look around and ask questions as to what might be available. Now, I wrote to a particular gunsmith as part of my quest to buy a Crosman 600. I found out that I actually couldn't own one of those guns because of the licensing laws within the UK. But what the gunsmith sent me was a brochure on some air pistols that I could actually buy if I wanted to. So in the catalogue was the Diana Mod 5 and the Diana Mod 6, and I looked at these, the pictures of these, and there was quite a bit of difference in price between the Model 5 and the Model 6, and yet the photographs for both of these air pistols looked very, very similar. So it wasn't until I scrutinised these pictures even more that I realised that the Model 6 had some sort of embellishment here, I guess. There seemed to be an extra part on this particular air pistol compared with the Model 5. As I say, the Model 5 was much cheaper, probably by as much as a third, and this was really, the Model 5 was really the only air pistol that I could afford. I couldn't afford the Model 6. But as I read the details within the brochure that had been sent me, it described the Model 6 as being recoilless. So I went ahead and bought the Model 5, and it turned up and I was very happy with it. It was a very good air pistol. I kind of still lusted after the Model 6, but it wasn't something that I was going to own. Now, fast forward many years to probably my mid-50s, and I was out at a shooting range, an air rifle shooting range, and someone came along and said, "Does anyone want to buy this pistol?" And I looked at it, and immediately I recognised that it was a Diana Mod 6 from the embellishment here, this extra kind of spindle that seems to run through the mechanism, and the guy was asking a reasonable price, and that's what I did. I purchased the pistol there and then. and it's been a delight. I'm so happy that I've managed to catch up on my history once again by purchasing something that I couldn't actually buy way back in the 1960s. Now, as part of the research for this video, I've tried to find information about this particular pistol and the pistols that have gone on before this, and it's quite sketchy out there, so you'll have to bear with me. I may get things slightly wrong, but I think I've done my research enough to actually understand now a little bit about where this particular type of air pistol fits into the kind of Diana Mod 5, Mod 6 historical kind of different variants that have happened throughout the 1900s. So from what I can make out, the Model 5 was made initially from 1931 to 1940, so pre-war, pre-World War II, and it was sold as the Model 5V, and this particular model had some wooden grips on it, and actually I had one of these, a time pack. I didn't actually know or understand what I actually had, but I did have it for a length of time, and I sold it very cheaply. And unfortunately, these models, these pre World War II models of the Model 5 are quite sought after and quite expensive, and I let that one go, unfortunately. So my notes tell me that the early Model 6, the wooden stock, was available in the early 1960s as well, and these changed to a plastic grip, as you can see with the one I have here, around the 1960s. In fact, actually, we've got some dates here. The grey plastic variant was available from 1962 to the early 70s, and the brown plastic variant was available from the 1970 or 1970 to 1978. And I've also got down on my notes that the Model 6 in plastic stock was available from 1960 to 1978. So by my reckoning, it looks like the Model 6 was actually available in its plastic form a couple of years before the Mod 5 came along. Of course, if I've got any of this information wrong, please add your comments in and correct me on this, because as I said, I found it quite difficult to actually find information on this, and I was scratching around on the internet for ages. So if you know better, or you've got some additional information, then please let me know. So a little bit of an aside, in the United States of America, this particular model was known as the Winchester Model 353. So Winchester actually imported these air pistols from Diana. They had them rebadged with the Winchester name on them, and they were sold, as I've just said, as the Model 353. There was also a Model 10 target pistol available, and this air pistol, I haven't got any pictures of this, but the Model 10 actually relates in mechanism to the Model 5 and Model 6, but it's got a traditional target pistol shape, whereas although this type here has kind of a cutout pistol grip here for target shooting, the Model 10 was much more a target fashioned affair. So I'm going to point out some bits on this particular air pistol for you. On the top here, if we can focus in on that part, it says Diana Mod 6. it doesn't actually say original Diana. So I know some air rifles and air pistols around this period might have said original on them, but this one just says Diana Mod 6. On the side here it says made in Germany, so it certainly has been made in Germany. Here, right at the back, I'm not sure if you can actually see that very well. No, maybe not. Let's see, I'm going to see if I can get some better light on this for you. So I'm just going to go over a few of the identification marks on the air pistol itself. If I align this up, maybe you can see these. Written along here is made in Germany, and along the back here, I hope you can see that just there's a couple of numbers on this particular pistol. It says 0369, so that's the date mark on there. Along at this point here we've got the actual serial number for this particular gun, and on the other side there's a mark just here that has the manufacturer's name. It's a German name there, so that's kind of almost unpronounceable there, but that's obviously the makers that go under the name of Diana. So on the top of the air pistol we have a pretty comprehensive back sight with an elevation control here with numbers on, and we also have a windage nut here, knurled nut for windage. And at the back of the sight here we have this peculiar kind of cut-in blade. Well, it's the shapes for the back sight, but these swivel round to give you a different perspective. So there's a U shape here, there's a kind of V notch, and a square, and you can turn those round to center up with whatever you've got down at the foresight here. So, and this at this point here, this is changeable too, so if I kind of just unscrew this, if I can, it's actually on very tight. Let me just try and move that first and I'll come back. So I've loosened this off now, so I don't know why this was on so tight, but it's a plastic nut there that allows then for the sight that you've chosen to come out. And it's in this particular case we've got kind of like a point there, a blade point. And you can change these obviously to whatever you like. They just slot in, and with the gun you should have a selection of these. So they just slot in there, and then you just screw this former in here to actually ensure that the actual sight that you've inserted in there doesn't come out. So that's how that works. So let's go on to how the actual air pistol works. So the Diana Mod 6 is a recoilless air pistol, and as I've mentioned earlier, we have this kind of knurled kind of assembly that runs through from side to side. This is in fact inside, this is a kind of a ratchet affair that's operating inside to allow two pistons to actually move in different directions, and this is how the pistol actually kind of creates its recoilless effect. Now so you have two pistons in here, and when the gun is fired, the system allows for two pistons to move in opposite directions, and they actually, as I understand it, they move away from this spindle here. Basically, one of the pistons is actually driving the air down this way to where the pellet is, and of course out of the barrel in the traditional way. The other spring piston is a dummy piston, and this is actually moving in this direction towards this end of the gun. And because you've got the forces acting in equal proportions, the gun is actually recoilless, even though some spring action is actually taking place here. And I understand that this this kind of idea, or at least this patented idea, is known as a GIS counter piston, and it was developed I think solely by Diana to ensure that they had kind of an air rifle and an air pistol that had a recoilless kind of action to it. So to cock the air pistol, it's a break barrel, so I'm not going to actually load this, because I think once I've cocked this I can't actually decock this. So I'll show you a little bit more when we come to the point where we actually chronograph the air pistol and we do some shooting at a target. But basically it's a break barrel there, and you can just see there the actual the seal there between the breech and the cylinder part of the air pistol there. So I'm going to clamp that back up, and we're not going to load this up at this particular point, but I will demonstrate that further in the part 2 and show you exactly how the air pistol works. It's not a tremendously powerful air pistol, because most of the mechanism within the cylinder is taken up with part of the assembly to create the recoilless effect. So you've got this second cylinder in here that's actually taking part in the recoilless operation, and of course you've only then got the space here for a movement of a very short piston stroke to drive the pellet out of the barrel. So yes, not a very powerful air pistol by any means, but quite a fun one to shoot. So I'm going to leave it at that. If you've got any comments about this air pistol, please drop them in the comments, and add to the information that we're trying to relay to people here that may either have one of these or may want to buy one of these. So I'll see you on the part 2. So please press like or subscribe to this channel if you wish to. It'd be great. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time on the next video.